Navruz speaks at last, and the revelation has everyone buzzing. The quiet truth behind what really happened with Alina is not what anyone expected. Welcome to Whispers of Turkish Stars. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and stay with us, because today we're unpacking the most whispered about love story of the season, piece by piece, from red carpet glow to social media silence, and all the subtle signs in between. Their romance began like a soft focused dream. Alina and Navruz. Two of the most magnetic faces in Turkish television stepped into the same frame one summer and suddenly the world followed. They weren't just co-stars or colleagues, they were a picture of ease, of private glances caught by invasive flashes, of shared vacations where the sea sparkled like a promise. Fashion nights, premieres, dinners with friends, and those delicate hints that made viewers think, they're building something. There was a sense of plans whispered at dawn and futures considered in the hush of a car ride home. It felt inevitable. It felt imminent. And then, without a warning caption, the soundtrack went quiet. That silence, as always, began online. Late October crept in, and with it, the kind of stillness that fans recognize by instinct. Posts slowed, then stopped. Stories that once crossed paths no longer did. The clearest sign arrived when they unfollowed one another, a gesture so small and yet so loud that it echoed across timelines. But the moment that convinced everyone the wind had shifted came from Alina herself. Her Instagram suddenly vanished, as if she had simply stepped off the stage and pulled the curtain behind her. Before disappearing, though, she left a hint that people read and reread like a letter from an old friend. Alina posted a brief story, a few lines that felt like a whisper to herself. "I've spent too long saying yes to the wrong things and leaving myself until last. I'm relearning my own value, promising to treat myself with the care I give away so freely." The story didn't stay up for long. Screenshots, however, have a way of living their own lives. Fans treated the words like footprints in the sand, trying to decide whether they pointed to heartbreak, exhaustion, or an overdue boundary finally held. For his part, Alp said very little. He has always been guarded about what belongs to him and him alone, and his profiles reflected that. Fewer photos, fewer captions, more silence that said, "This is not for public consumption." Even so, the world still caught them in one last frame together. On October 29th, an image from an official visit to the Tenerife Island Council. They stood there, poised and composed, carrying the shine of their professions and the weight of all the speculation that would follow. After Tenerife, there were no more joint lights, no more shared corners. The stillness settled. Television couldn't resist. When Alp appeared on a Sunday show, yes, Domenica, with Mara Vinier leaning forward in that practiced, maternal way, she broached the question everyone else was tiptoeing around: his heart, his plans, his status. Alp's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. His answers were careful, compact, stitched together with courtesy. You could feel the tension between wanting to be gracious and refusing to feed a machine that eats feelings for breakfast. It read as distance. It read as a situation too delicate to navigate under studio bulbs. The confusion deepened because not long before, Alp had spoken in an interview about a future shaped by simple things. A home that felt like a refuge, a life with fewer disruptions, the courage to take a step that counted. People decoded those words into one headline: he was ready to propose. Fans who had watched those sunlit holiday moments and whispered soon into the comments were stunned when the feed turned to winter. And what about Alina? She's an artist for whom silence can be a sanctuary. Her career has taught her to carry a story with restraint, and off-screen she has always been selective with the parts of herself she lets the world read. Past relationships, the pressure of constant scrutiny, the peculiar ache of having strangers narrate your life, all of that leaves traces. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance from Instagram, she had spoken in general terms about growth, about boundaries, about learning how to leave rooms that no longer felt warm. There were no accusations, no dramatic declarations, just that sense of choosing quiet over noise. Social media, of course, operated at full volume. Theories bloomed like wildflowers. Some voices claimed the vanishing act was a sign the love story had ended for good. Others swore the move was tactical, a way to protect a fragile middle chapter while filming schedules tore days apart and travel kept them in different cities. There were those who thought the unfollows meant closure. There were those who saw a strategy to take the pressure down to a low hum until something more grounded could return. International outlets joined the chorus. Turkish pages led the charge, but papers and sites in Italy and Spain ran with the post-Tenerife quiet as if it were a proclamation. In every language, the headlines asked the same thing: was this silence a full stop or a comma? Against that noise, an old Alp interview stood as a counterweight. His talk of craving a simple life, of seeking calm rather than spectacle, suggested that even love needs a room with a door. And if you've ever tried to balance set calls, airport gates, scripts, rehearsals, and obligations with someone else's equally crowded calendar, you know that sometimes affection becomes a casualty of the clock. So let's consider the possible endings, or better yet, the possible intermissions. There is the official breakup reading. The unfollows, the vanished account, the restrained TV appearance, add them up and the answer seems clear. Then there is the pause reading, a temporary retreat while they navigate projects and protect whatever tenderness remains from a public that loves a conclusion too much. There is the privacy reading, that none of this is our business, that the quiet was an act of self-defense rather than a coded message. And, yes, there is still the future reading. If Alp once imagined the next brave step, perhaps that vision hasn't disappeared, only been postponed until the timing feels honest. What fuels the obsession isn't just romance, it's contrast. Fans scroll from close, sun-warmed vacation photos to days and days of digital emptiness. The shift feels like a cliff. In comment sections and fan forums, people assemble timelines with the focus of detectives. They convert glances into data. They compare wardrobe choices and captions in song lyrics. They argue over whether a sigh on a talk show revealed more than any quote ever could. Every post ignites a new round of interpretation, a new layer of meaning placed upon two people who might simply be trying to breathe. The irony is that this is what made their story captivating in the first place. They looked so natural together. There was an ease in the way Alp angled toward Alina when the cameras burst. There was a softness in the way she seemed to rest in his presence, not as an accessory but as an equal. You could believe in their version of a modern fairy tale, a partnership that understood the difference between the noise of attention and the signal of genuine affection. When a story like that goes quiet, it feels like a theater suddenly dimming the lights and refusing to tell you whether the play ended or the curtains just down between acts. Let's return for a moment to Tenerife. Official photos are supposed to reduce people to symbols, representatives, guests, ambassadors of their craft. And yet, in that single image, something human peeks out. It isn't coldness. It isn't distance. It's the expression of two people aware that they're being read, every breath annotated. After that, they chose absence. They chose, for once, not to add another page to a book that wasn't being read so much as consumed. On Domenica with Mara Venier, Alp's answers may have been brief, but they weren't unkind. He performed a careful dance, acknowledging the question without letting it claim him. Viewers split into camps. Some saw a man guarding a heartbreak. Others saw a partner refusing to turn intimacy into content. Here's what the camera didn't capture: the offstage sigh, the hand to the heart, the moment when the studio energy drains and a person remembers that not everything beautiful is meant to be shared. As for Alina's final story before the vanishing act, its power lies in its gentleness. It wasn't a rebuke. It wasn't a plea. It was a reminder written in the mirror: be tender with yourself. Imagine reading that, then stepping away, then choosing quiet. The message harmonizes with what she's expressed in interviews over the years, that the craft takes focus, that a life in the spotlight requires constant recalibration, that sometimes your well-being must outweigh the applause. There are no villains here, only timing and pressure in two careers paced by other people's schedules. Add to that the shape of modern love, curated, glimpsed, demanded, doubted, and sold back to you as content. When the world asks for daily proof, the most radical act can be letting the proof live off-screen. Perhaps that's what we're seeing, the refusal to give a sensory-hungry audience the taste it craves. Or perhaps, yes, it is the end. Endings can be brave too. Fans will continue to study the breadcrumbs, the rings not worn, the captions left blank, the mutual friends who post shared dinners without tagging either of them. They will count the days since the unfollow. They will revisit the early videos where laughter came quickly and wonder whether it was foreshadowing or simply two people happy in a moment. They will weigh the Tenerife photo against the talk show's tight smiles and decide their own truth in the absence of an official one. What the rest of us can do is remember that the beauty of their connection wasn't in how loudly it was announced but in how quietly it seemed to hum. From the red carpets to the tucked-away tables, from summer light to the hush of late autumn, Alina Boz and Navruz gave the impression of two artists trying to honor work and love at the same time. If the story is over, it deserves a soft landing. If it's merely paused, it deserves room to breathe. Either way, the tale will linger, because it asks a question as old as fame and as current as your feed: where do we put our hearts when the spotlight refuses to dim? We can read the signals, the unfollows, the deleted story, the October 29th visit to Tenerife, the guarded exchange with Mara Venier, but signals are only signs, not verdicts. Perhaps the most loving response is patience. Tell us what you think. Is this the quiet final chapter, or a necessary intermission before a new beginning? Drop your thoughts below. If you felt the tremor in this story the way we did, like the air changing just before rain, tap like and subscribe to Whispers of Turkish Stars. We'll be here when the next clue surfaces, not to shout over the truth, but to listen for it.